Could the Miami Heat trade Jaime Jaquez Jr. for Darius Garland? Yes, that is the topic of today's show because there was a rumor started out there, prediction, if you will, by The Athletic that the Heat could trade for Darius Garland and Jaime Jaquez Jr. would likely be the player heading back to the Cleveland Cavaliers. We're going to talk about that on today's show. I am Nic Rohloff. This is the Heat Report. And if you haven't already, please hit that sub button because we're talking Heat basketball on the daily. We are under 40 subscribers away from 13K. If we hit there on today's show, you know what, F it, I'll do a beer bong on Monday's show. So hit that sub button and help me out to get the 13K. All right, let's talk about it though, because it's kind of a shocking article that was put out there from The Athletic where they were just talking about a lot of things that could happen this offseason. And they predicted a Garland trade to Miami if there was a trade from Cleveland's aspect. And this is something that could happen. If you remember, a month, 2 months ago, there was a report that came out from the Shams Charania and said that if Donovan Mitchell signs a long-term extension with the Cavs, Darius Garland's going to request a trade. And that came straight from his agency, Rich Paul. Well, obviously, Donovan Mitchell signed a long-term extension with the Cavs, and we have yet to see a trade request from Darius Garland. And I don't know if it's coming. Brian Windhorst said last week that Garland never officially requested a trade, but seriously considered doing so. I'm not sure if that's ever going to happen. But one thing is clear, and before we talk about the Heat side of things, just on Cleveland's aspect, they do actually need to switch it up. A Garland-Mitchell backcourt simply will not work long-term, and we know that it's not going to net a finals appearance. They're simply just never going to be better than Boston, Philly, or New York with their current roster. And the only way they can get there is if they move off of Garland and build a better team around Mitchell, because D-Mitch is an excellent scorer. I want him in Miami. There's no doubt about it. But he is not the best defender, and he's not the biggest guard either in terms of his size. So to pair him up with a guard that's a little bit undersized and not a good defender as well makes absolutely zero sense. He needs to be surrounded by wings and athletes and good size that can defend at all positions. So to me, I think Garland should be traded. But here is what Zach Harper of The Athletic said. With Donovan Mitchell signing an extension, Garland remains a bit redundant. He's a good lead guard who's been an all-star, and that was before Mitchell got to town. Garland can shoot and pass. Though he's small and isn't a great defender, having him for the next 4 years provides upside to taking a swing. And I completely agree. And then he labeled the 4 trade destinations that he believes Garland could go to. The 4 teams: the Miami Heat, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Orlando Magic, and the Brooklyn Nets. I think all 4 teams make sense for him. The Lakers are looking for a guard to help Anthony Davis and LeBron. The Heat are looking for a lead guard that can handle the offense, score, and help Bam in the pick and roll. The question is Garland even that big of an upgrade over Rozier and Hero? We'll talk about that in a second. The Magic make a lot of sense for Garland. They need a guard bad. The Nets, I don't really know about that. But either way, let's just talk about now the fit of potentially Darius Garland in Miami, because he's had a good 5-year career and it's been solid. You mentioned he was an all-star. He has played in at least 54 games in every season, which, yeah, you're still missing 20-plus games, but at least he's never been out for half the year. He's played 59, 54, 68, 69, 57, and he's averaging 18.4 points in his career. And he's had multiple seasons in 21-22 and 22-23 where he averaged 20-plus points a game. But the part that is impressive to me is that if you take away his rookie season, he is averaging damn near 8 assists a game the last 4 years. 6.1, 8.6, 7.8, 6.5. He is one of the better distributors and playmakers in the Eastern Conference. The former 5th overall pick from Vanderbilt has been really good. He's still only 24 years old, but there is downsides of his size and his inability to defend. He's only 6'1", and he's just not a good defender, and he doesn't have a lot of weight on him, so he gets bully-balled sometimes. A lot of times, and we saw that quite a bit in the Orlando Magic playoff series. The Magic took them to 7. They ended up winning the series because of Donovan Mitchell heroics down the stretch, but Garland was not really much of a help offensively, and he certainly wasn't a help defensively. And before we get more into the conversation and bring Jaime Jaquez Jr. into it, let me know, would you trade for Darius Garland? Y for yes or N for no? Before I give my final answer, I think I have to take a couple things into consideration. One, you have to think about what it would cost you in a trade. And two, is even that much of an upgrade of what you have? Because you already obviously have two guards that aren't the best defenders, a little bit undersized, in Tyler Hero and Terry Rozier. Now, maybe one of them would be going in a trade for Darius Garland. Who knows? Now, the Athletics trade package and what it would cost a team to trade for Darius Garland is as followed. It was a 3-and-D wing, defensive stretch 4, and multiple first/pick swaps. Maybe it's just one of the two, or two of the three, I should say, to get him, which is where the Jaime Jaquez Jr. stuff comes into it. Because if you were to trade for Darius Garland, I don't think the Cavs would want Terry Rozier or Tyler Hero. Maybe they would, and they'd want to play him as a six-man coming off the bench to lead the second unit for that team. Maybe they would, but I think they would covet Jaime Jaquez Jr. It was reported before Mitchell signed a long-term extension that if they didn't get that commitment from D-Mitch and wanted to make a trade with Miami, they would require Jaime Jaquez Jr., and that front office in Cleveland really likes Triple J, which makes sense because he's everything they need. A person who can play the three, can play the defend, can score, play off ball, and that's what they need because their front court is pretty solid with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. Their back court is undersized, but they need that connecting piece on the wing to help them smooth out their starting lineup in closing five. And Jaquez would fit in perfectly because Isaac Okoro was not able to do that. Max Strus is still a little bit undersized and not the best defender. Average to above average, but not the best. Jaquez would fill that perfectly for them to where they could have a Mitchell, Strus, Jaquez, whatever, and then their front court lineup, which would make a lot of sense. So to me, if the Heat were to trade for Darius Garland, it would absolutely require Jaime Jaquez Jr., and I'm not sure I'm willing to do that. And I've been willing to send Triple J in trade packages in the past for a Lauri Markkanen, and I was fine with that. For Donovan Mitchell, I was fine for that. But Darius Garland does not meet the expectations, the requirements, whatever you want to frame it as, to earn a Jaquez in a trade package. I'm sure they'd want him. Garland's a good young player that is still young, like I mentioned, still ascending, has a lot of good play in his game, could help Kel'el Ware and Bam tremendously in pick and roll because of how he can feed them and really unlock those two big men's games. But I'm not trading Jaquez for him. I'm not. Jaime entering his year two, I think he's in for a big leap, and I view Triple J as kind of the Jimmy Butler replacement. It's unfortunate that the Heat are kind of tiptoeing two builds right now between the current win it all build and the future build. And if you want to help Jimmy and Bam win a title now before Jimmy leaves or is cooked, you probably need to trade Jovic or Jaquez to get a better established player. And sure, Garland would help you win a championship next year more than Jaime Jaquez Jr. will. But I think Triple J is the replacement for Jimmy Butler. He plays an eerily similar game to him. You saw how dominant he was in Summer League, averaging 26 points a game through his two appearances. I think he's in for a massive year two breakout, and I'm not trading Jaquez for Darius Garland. I'm simply not going to do it because I think he's going to elevate his three-point shooting to 36-37%, average 14 or 15 a game, and be viewed as that next guy in line next to Bam. I don't know if Jaquez can ever be a leading man on a championship team. That remains to be seen, but I'm at least intrigued with the idea of seeing how that plays out post Jimmy Butler. And that's the intriguing thing of really the the build Miami has and what decisions they have to make. How do they view this roster long term? After Jimmy Butler, do they think the young guns of Hero, Bam, Jaquez, Jovic, Kel'el Ware is a good enough core to develop and be a contending team in 2 to 3 years? Probably not. Like, I don't know. It's tough for Miami to decide, but one thing is abundantly clear for me personally, and it's that I'm not trading Jaime Jaquez Jr. for Darius Garland. Garland's a cool player, good facilitator. He gives something Miami would need in terms of playmaking, shooting, at that guard spot, but because he's undersized, because he can't defend, because it would likely cost Jaime Jaquez Jr. and first-round picks, I'm out. And what would you do with Hero and Rozier? Sure, you can maybe flip one of them in a separate deal or make it a 3-team trade where you're sending Jaquez to Cleveland, one of the guards to a different team, and maybe all you send is Jaquez and Hero/Rozier. You don't have to give up picks because whatever team you send Rozier to Hero to sends picks to Cleveland, blah, 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 blah. Stuff that I don't want to talk about because I'm not trading Jaquez for Darius Garland. That's going to do it for today's show. If you have any more thoughts on the matter, hit me up on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff is my handle. DMs are open. We could create a conversation about the Miami Heat, this specific topic. You can ask me a question, does not matter. But also make sure you subscribe because, like I said, trying to get to 13K. Be awesome if we got there before Monday morning. And if we do, I'm taking down a beer bong on Monday's show. So hit that sub button and I'll see you then with another video. Go Heat.